Hey there, good morning. Afternoon, I mean. It is Tuesday, January 7th, afternoon session. I am Rob, also known as thatDeveloperDad, and we're working in .NET and C Sharp, and we are in the process of standing up the backend systems behind an API. So we've got all of the architecture, all of the use cases are already implemented, fronted by the manager. We've got some resource access components in here. The manager wraps all of that stuff together into a couple of classes. And the main thing that we're concerned about here on the managers is this iAccount manager. And we've got load or create customer profile async, store customer profile, manage customer subscriptions async, stuff like that. These are the primary use cases that we're going to be concerned with. So this morning in the SaaS Admin API application, I created this endpoints extensions class. And let's just shut this down for a little bit. Add application endpoints. We're just going to leave this exposing the weather forecast for now. We added our webhook endpoints, and we're capturing those. And I think I should I was thinking I might fire up the webhook functions and then tie those into calling the API, but I don't think I'm going to do that yet. I think instead I want to incorporate the backend actual logic components with this API application. Now, over in my test console program CS, I'm doing my dependency injection significantly differently than a lot of people are used to doing. So we create our bootloader. We've got this stuff going. Loading the system configuration. We're building out the utilities. And then we have this service collection thing. This separate service collection. And it eventually gets built into a service provider, which is used to get the various actual actionable components that we're using. So let's grab this stuff. Copy these. Come back over to our API where we're doing our services setup. We'll paste these in here. Now, global utilities, we don't really want to pass that. But this add app architecture, let's get rid of this. We'll fix this anger code here. An add app architecture, that is in using thatDeveloperDad.ifx. So there's that. Now it wants a service provider with these shared services in it. So what I'm going to have to do is, after we've built the app, we're going to stand up this secondary service collection. Or actually our primary service collection. Services we'd registered in the applications DI container are considered ambient or global services, and really should just consist of utility style things. Our application components will use a different DI container that we will set up now. Paste that. The global utilities variable is the app level DI container. Let's get that into a variable now. Var global utilities is app services. Boop. Happy stuff. App services builder, build service provider. Calling build service provider from application code results in an additional copy of singles of services being created. Dependency injecting services as parameters to configure. What are you even talking about? Yeah, let's see what this configure thing. Configuration instance that T options will bind against. No. Dot build. Yeah, we're just going to build the service provider. We're going to FAFO. We're going to fool around and find out. But we're going to drop a breakpoint right here. And I'm going to solve that red code right there. And let's see what goes into this app services builder. It should only have a very tiny handful of services that it owns. So let's build. Actually, we'll build the whole shebang. Build the whole darn kit and caboodle. That Core's framework really hates this, but too bad. If it breaks, we'll fix it. If it works, I'll hashtag pragma the warning away. I don't like using hashtag pragma. Hey, C Films, it's happening. All right, let's see what happens when we run this guy. Debug, stat new instance. Okay, so there's that authorization. We'll just let the sucker run. And let's see what all is in here. So our app services builder, it's got 2 services, and that's it. Let's take a look. I'll just expand this guy over here. It's got a service provider and an iAccount manager, which is exactly what I expect to see in there, which is perfect. So we're just going to step app services. There's 2 services in there. Our account manager, but invisibly, that service provider, it's the service provider for the iAccount manager. And inside that service provider, excuse me, it's got a whole pile of stuff in there. Oh, you stinker. Let's take a look at app services. We've got 2 of these. And here's our service provider. And it's got some stuff in there. Service type. But let's see here. Where's the instance? Is there an instance in here? You are still not 100%. Oh, have you been under the weather? Key implementation factory, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we'll see if it spins. My manager exists. And it is a generated proxy. Oh, that sucks. You got one of those flus that's going around? Hopefully not H5N1. That's bad news. So we've got the manager. We could probably invoke it. It's got a single global behavior on it, which is my interception call timer. All that good stuff. And we can go ahead and add our endpoints. So blah, 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 blah. All the things happened. Good stuff. So instead of instantiating this iAccount manager here, I need to come out to my extension methods, pop in here, and iService collection, application. I'm going to call this component registry. All right. That feels like a good name for that. Yeah, C Films. I can relate, dude. My wife and I, 9 and 12 and I, for the past, 6 months, I feel like we've had spurts where we'll have a good week where we're feeling not horrible. And then beyond that, we might as well. I need to find out which company makes NyQuil and just buy some shares, because I think between the 2 of us, we're responsible for a large portion of their current revenue, and it's not a fun deal. So my webhook processors, or rather the API methods that handle the webhooks, They both will rely on that account manager. And I'm going to call this the use case provider equals, and this isn't a service collection, it's a service provider. You silly goose. Registry dot get service account manager. And converting null literal or possible null value to non-nullable type. All right, fine. We'll do one of these. If use case provider, no, not the use case provider. Rob. Yeah, use case provider is null. And I also need iLogger, bootLogger. We'll run back up here. I need to provide app services bootLogger to both of these methods. Now that one's going to complain for another minute, but I'll fix that in a second. Okay. Go to definition, comma, iLogger, bootLogger. Save that. iServiceProvider. There we go. Save. And this actually seems to be working. So we're going to suppress. Right here. ASP.NET Core's framework really hates that I'm using two DI containers. But too bad. The pragma warning disables this instance of the compiler warning because I'm doing this on purpose. Save. To isolate my logic component tree from the rest of the application ambient services. All right. Let's come back into endpoint extensions. And I want to bootLogger, and let's spell it right. .log error. The account manager service could not be loaded from app services. shutting down. And rather than doing it that way, I will string error equals that. We'll do that. Error. There we go. And now we'll have access to the use case provider. We've got this. We've got all this stuff. And I want to look up, because .NET 9 got rid of built-in Swagger support. Project's actually progressing really, really, really nicely. New window. .NET 9 OpenAPI UI. OpenAPI document generation in .NET 9. This is something that I'm going to want to have. All right. So between .NET 8 and .NET 9, Microsoft removed the integration with Swagger and SwaggerGen and all that good stuff. So OpenAPI, a powerful tool for defining and documenting HTTP APIs, yada, 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 yada. The job search is going incredibly poorly. I'm having a heck of a time even getting people to look at me. Although, you know, it is just the first Tuesday in a new year. We'll see what we get. So while the job search is happening slowly and I'm waiting for responses and all that good stuff, I'm just going ahead and forging forward with trying to get this thing off the ground. Who knows? Maybe it'll take off like a rocket and I won't have to worry about working for somebody else. Proof generating blah, 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 blah. System text JSON, compatible with native AOT, how to get started. Okay, I'm using .NET 9, ASP Core Docs, blah, blah, blah. Enable OpenAPI support. I believe that's already in there. Let's just pull this over here and take a look in my dependencies. Package. Spin over here. Here's OpenAPI. Groovy. We've got builder services at OpenAPI. I believe that's already out in the program CS somewhere. Yep, right here. Cool. Now you can run your application and access the generated OpenAPI document at /OpenAPI v1 JSON. Cool. Well, let's spin this up and see what we get there. Start. And just let this run. Okay. And say localhost. I don't think, is it 5173? I don't think it is. I think it's, where are you listening? Wherefore are you listening? Do, 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 do. Okay. Getting all the stuff. Spinning all of these things up. Da, 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 da. Serving proxy. 5083. 5083 forward slash. Now let's pop over here and go to OpenAPI forward slash v1.json. Holy crap, look at all this stuff. So we've got weather forecast, we've got the list of components, tags, all of that stuff. Neat. Oh. All right. Well, let's shrink that down. Now we add the OpenAPI metadata. So with summary, with description, okay, endpoint summaries and descriptions are very important because they tell users and LLMs what things they can accomplish with your API. You want to group related endpoints together in documentation. This is usually done with tags. You can tag your endpoints. Boogity boogity boo. When an endpoint has parameters, string name, blah, blah, blah. You can use the description attribute to add descriptions to properties in your data models. Beautiful. Customize your documents using transformers. Add OpenAPI, add document transformer. Blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. One application is to modify portions outside the paths and components. Contact in the info element. Blah, blah, blah. Add operation transformer. Schema transformers. Customize schema reuse. Generating at build time. So on and so forth. So neat. Now, it's unlikely that I'm going to be publishing this API to the public. Actually, it's downright not going to happen. But future me is going to want this information so I don't have to go hunting through the code base to get to all of this information. So, let's go into the webhook components. Go to definition. And let's see. Equals app.mapGroup dot let's see what we have. With description. Are invoked by the webhook receivers when a request has been successfully authenticated. And let's refresh. And I'll pop back over here. Is it running? It's running. So let's refresh this and see if, oh, it can't connect to the server. You silly goose. Oh, duh. I can get rid of that. I can get rid of this. Go. Refresh. All right. So here's our weather. Get weather forecast. And that's really all it's generating from. So that's annoying. Let's take a look at Program CS. I suspect current application for resolving the OpenAPI document associated with the current application, document name.json, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, here's all this stuff. Customizing the documents, generating a build time with OpenAPI extension method, adding a particular header we return on successful post requests, blah, blah, blah. OpenAPI extension method does not integrate well. Okay, that's not quite it. Add operation transformer. .NET 6 to 9. No runtime pack for blah, blah, blah. Done via attributes, whatever. For .NET 10, because it doesn't support extracting information from XML comments yet. Blah, blah, blah. That doesn't help me. OpenAPI document generation in here. Let's see if there's any gotchas about okay, map OpenAPI map get / hello world. Document API is called internal. API version of a generated document. That's customizing the route. Caching. Generating a build time. Blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. Customizing runtime behavior. Document.insider. Not quite what I want. My key. Trimming in native AOT. Include OpenAPI metadata. HTTP post and produces attributes, but may also be set by extension methods, such as returning type results from route handlers. Okay. So, we come back to Google. .NET OpenAPI with route groups. Route groups are not included in UI. That's from 2024. Output. Smushbuckle, blah, blah, blah. Swagger Doc's awesome. Include minimal API route group in OpenAPI generated UI.net 9. Let's take a look over here. C# corner doesn't often go super duper deep. So here's all this stuff, and this light mode web page is breaking my eyeballs. Servers, URL, blah, 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 blah. Paths. Config document path, OpenAPI, blah, 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 blah. And swag ASP.NET Core package. Don't care about Swagger UI. Yeah, it doesn't help me. Don't want to go to GitHub. Visual Studio, include OpenAPI metadata. I wonder if I do it this way. So instead of /OpenAPI, if I go to the hooks / and I get diddly squat. Okay, so that doesn't really help me. Yeah. App architecture extensions, we're not worried about that yet. Add OpenAPI dot include. Nope. All right, fine. I'm looking at the generated OpenAPI documentation that comes with ASP.NET Core in .NET 9. I'm adding my API endpoints via extension methods declared in a class outside of program.cs. One of the endpoints is coming in fine in the generated JSON file, but the endpoints I've added to a route group are not included in that document. What gives? Excuse me. Isn't configured to recognize routes added by extension methods. Add OpenAPI. Got it. It's doing the thing. Builder build, map OpenAPI. Verify your route group configuration are being added properly. Yes, I can call them. Here's the body of the extension method that adds the route group and the endpoint methods to it. And it's reverted to talking about the old way of doing things. Process store event. .mapget, use OpenAPI, app.use OpenAPI, okay. Check for OpenAPI annotations, yeah. Manually add routes, okay. I'm in .NET 9, so the Swagger advice isn't relevant here. Add NPI, API Explorer. Let's take a look and see if this jives with anything. All right, let's take a look at Program CS. And all we've got out here is add OpenAPI. I wonder if I need to invoke this map OpenAPI. What if we boop this down to here? Save. Map OpenAPI, string pattern OpenAPI. Are there any other extension methods? Add endpoint filter, exclude from description, produces problem, short circuit with metadata, with OpenAPI with order. What's with OpenAPI do? Primarily intended, okay. So let's save that, restart. Looks to be running. Let's go back, reload. Here's weather forecast. And that's all she wrote. All right, curiosity time. Let's come into the endpoint extensions. And on the add application endpoints, let's add another phony thing. app.mapGet / hello there. General Kenobi, I've been expecting you. Dot with name greeting. But I'm going to try to add it without the name first. Rerun this, or restart the API. Excuse me. Pull this back here. Refresheroni pizza. We have no change. Let's do a with name. Save that. Reload it. And refresh. And it does not seem to be generating anything. I have a suspicion. There is a new file that gets added to projects. I gotta wonder if I add a get devdad dot sas admin dot API host address slash hello there accept application JSON. Save. If I add this here, restart my app, and refresh this, it's still not doing anything. That's so weird. That's so very, very, very weird. Where is this coming from? Let's stop. Come over to endpoint extensions. Let's actually comment this out. Save that. Debug. Start new instance. Bring my API test thing back over here, and it got rid of it. All right. So there's something extra happening here that's doing something weird. Might there be something in the project file? Doesn't seem to be happening there. Don't have anything out in program CS that's adding it. Weather forecast, HTTP context, return with name. This is so very strange. Very strange indeed. Let's get rid of that block comment. And let's comment this. And instead of that, it's winter in North Carolina. Enjoy your milk sandwiches. Reload. Reload this. Here's get weather forecast. Now, why the heck is it just get weather forecast that's coming into my API documentation? This is very, very, very weird. Very weird indeed. Dot with name process access violation. Lol. Process store event dot with name process new entra sign up. Let's run over here. Dot with name webhook processors reload reload over here, and there's no change. Tommy, can you see me? Save and refresh. And we have it over here, but for some reason, none of the other things that are configured in exactly the same way are being honored. I'm going to move this up here, save, rerun. And we still only have that weather endpoint. That's so weird. So let's invoke greeting. No. Hello there. General Kenobi, I've been expecting you. It's invocable. Hooks. Process store event. Process store event. Cool. But for some reason, the OpenAPI documentation is just not generating as expected. When I run into stuff like this, it usually means I'm doing it wrong. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of homework, a little bit of research to get this OpenAPI stuff generating correctly. Now, none of these endpoints are going to be available to the public. They're going to be buried deep inside a private resource group in my Azure tenant. So this stuff doesn't really matter. But since we're building an API, we might as well build it right and decorate it with all the good stuff that we want it to have. So that's going to be my focus for the rest of this afternoon, is figuring out what the heck I need to do to get that API documentation generating the way I expect to see it. And I'll review those changes. We'll review what I learned in the next couple hours tomorrow morning, and I'll go over the changes that I made and what I did wrong and all of that stuff. And then we'll start digging into the actual integration between the callable endpoints and the actual business logic in the account manager that I built previously and finished testing yesterday. So, yep, not every coding session is as productive as we may originally plan it to be. So, yeah, it happens. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. We'll learn some stuff. And yeah, this OpenAPI stuff is apparently not quite as simple as Microsoft advertised. We'll find out. All right, y'all. Until tomorrow, take care of yourselves and happy coding. I'll see you next time.